After almost a year, my sketchbook is now finally full, which means that it's just about time to go and get a new one. So come and follow along as I start a new sketchbook. So these are the colors they have, but I don't see the green that I actually like. So I think I'm gonna go with the purple maybe this time around. We've also got a new pen. Ta-da! This is a Lamy Safari in mint green. And it's really funny because for the amount of times that I talk about like fountain pens and stuff, I actually don't own a Lamy Safari. I'm very familiar with the pen, don't get me wrong, because I've recommended it to multiple people because I have worked with this before, but I don't own one on my own. So I thought it was time because I wanted to treat myself. So what I like about the Lamy is that it's quite affordable, at least for a fountain pen. So I'm not that scared to customize it. So I want to, and I don't mean customizing as a nib customizing, we're not quite there yet, but I want to print some like vinyl decals to like stick on the body and on the cap. Why is there already dirt? That's crazy. Yeah. The cashier at the store said that the color is really pretty, so I feel very validated right now. And yeah, gonna decorate my sketchbook now. One of my favorite things about starting a new sketchbook is putting stickers on the front cover. And I tend to only put stickers on the front cover so that during the months where I do carry my sketchbook with me, and if I tend to like find a sticker that I really like, I can still put it on the back. So the sticker combinations always tend to end up quite interesting. Another thing that I've been asked about is what model of sketchbook I'm using. This is a Leuchtturm sketchbook. Blank pages. The pages are quite thin, but as someone who mainly just uses her sketchbook for like an ideation process rather than finished work, I'm not quite bothered by bleed and stuff like that. Although I do have to say, for how thin the paper is, I don't really struggle with bleed. There's definitely some ghosting, but that's quite normal for thin paper. Another reason why I really like the sketchbook is because I draw a lot in fountain pen and the paper is very smooth, so the ink goes on very, very nicely. When it came to kind of having my starting page, there's two ways in which I approach it. Sometimes I just skip the first page entirely, or I mess it up so that I don't feel the pressure to perform in my sketchbook. However, I do realize that I will be taking this sketchbook with me for a long time, so what I do like to do is kind of remind myself what I'm working on. So I wanted to draw like my main 5 characters. So from left to right you have Ivy, a plant witch. They're all students, by the way. Asta, a star witch. Mingzhe, a water witch. Conan, a war witch. And Navi, a light witch. They are my main 5 characters, and the whole story is kind of centered around them and their character arcs. And as I kind of world build and develop other characters in this universe, it always comes back to them. So I wanted to keep them with me in my sketchbook because they are very near and dear to me. One really weird thing about characters is sometimes when you're younger, you make characters that are like your age or like are older than you. And then you have those for so long, and then at some point you're older than those characters, and you're like, damn, that's crazy. Because Ivy especially, I've had Ivy since I was 14, Ivy is 15, and I'm 18 now, so she's younger than me now, and on one hand that's kind of sad, because that means like time's passing, but on the other hand, I feel like it also gives me a lot more perspective as someone who creates character, because I can kind of further amplify that kind of teenage childish aspect of Ivy's character, because I now have a broader perspective on it, and it also kind of gives me some more grit to focus on the more adult characters in the story and what really matters. If you peek on the left page, you might see some ghosting from the previous page. So I think the Leuchtturms are actually planners, so you can actually buy them with lined paper or gridded or dotted paper. I just use them as a sketchbook because I think they're great. But they do have kind of these like setup pages that are lined. And what I tend to use those for is put in art. So last time I did art goals, which did not bring me far. So what I tried to do this time is set more precise goals or things that I want to create, so that if I do get art block or if I'm stuck by something, I kind of have a idea bank of things to go back on. For example, there's a lot of characters I want to design that I've had like as a concept in my head for that I've just not gotten around to, or locations, magic systems, kind of working out the mechanics of something. Even when I quote unquote world build or write, I still do it in a very visual sense because I need to know how it looks like in order for me to illustrate it properly, if that makes sense. So I put that in my sketchbook, and I can always add on to it. Then I've also had just some general goals, such as like color studies, because I'm not really good at color. Like, my art is colorful, yes, but I'm not good at color. So that's another thing that I really want to work on. And this year I really fell in love with fine liners again. I'm not big on fine liners. However, the Copic and the Microns, I found that are both waterproof, which means that I can use them with watercolor. And if you know me, you know that watercolors are my babies. So I've kind of picked them up and put them back into my art making process. I have also wanted to use this video as a bit of a chance to talk about my characters, specifically the ones that you are seeing right now, because I think about them a lot, and they're like my main characters when it comes to my stories. But I barely talk about them, so I wanted to give a little bit of like context. And so I'll talk about them from left to right, but a little bit of a introduction in general to say first is they're all witch students. Students in training, witches in training, if you will. They go to a school called Novus Anki Academy for the 12 Magical Arts, which is a witch school on top of a magical hill that focuses on teaching humans how to use magic. And I will introduce them now left to right. So the first one, the one that I'm about to color green, her name is Ivy. She's 15 years old, and she studies on the plant track. Plant magic often includes growing things. It's very much life-based, which I have both plant and earth magic in my world, but they're very distinct from each other. Plant magic focuses on the process of growth and the cycle of life, whereas earth magic more so focuses on the ground below. So think about the stones of the earth, the kind of foundation that land stands on. So it's a lot more grounded than plant magic. There's also life magic, which is more focused on animals and lives around you, and they are quite closely interlinked because they share this core concept of the cycle of life. However, whereas plant magic focuses more on growth, decay and death has a lot of a stronger emphasis in life magic. So there's a little bit of a difference for you. So Ivy is quite energetic and naive almost to a fault. She has a big passion for plant magic. However, she doesn't really have any big life goals. She just wants to do magic. So her whole arc is kind of focused on finding your purpose in life and kind of coming to the realization that maybe it's okay to not have everything figured out at 15 years old. Next to her is Asta. Asta is a star witch coming from a very rich, influential family. And she comes from a line of quite academic star witches as well, amongst others. The thing with star magic is it's a very hard subject to study, especially at a very young age, because it requires a lot of kind of book knowledge. You have to be very diligent at studying. You have to memorize the constellations, where the constellations came from, what heroes do they portray, because they carry a piece of their soul within them. So it is very book based. You have to know a lot in order to kind of call upon the power of constellation. But I think there's a certain payoff for this kind of hard work. So that's what star magic is about. Next to her is Mingzhe. She is a water witch in training. She is big into fashion, but also feels as though she carries the world on her shoulder, and there is a reason for it that I'm not going to reveal. But she carries with her a lot of guilt, and that kind of sneaks up to her throughout the 4 or 5 years that she is in school. Next, clad in red, we have Conan. Conan, despite her young age, is someone that's driven by duty, and this duty and the sense of responsibility also drives her into the track as a war witch. War magic used to be a lot more unhinged, whereas now it's a lot more academic and requires a lot of ethics classes due to a prior incident. So Conan, as someone who grew up to essentially be trained to become a bodyguard, is within that track in order to kind of fulfill the duty of her family. So she comes from a line of bodyguards that have served the royal family for a long time. However, when she first exchanged letters with the princess that she was soon to protect once she's of age, she learned about the princess's dislike for war and violence. So she found a new way to reinterpret war magic. So instead of conjuring weapons, she now conjures instruments, and it's a lot, her craft is a lot more focused on the intent rather than the actual by book execution, and I feel like that's getting kind of complicated, and I really do want to explain it another day in like a longer video. But all you have to know right now is that everything she does is driven by her sense of duty, and she is very proud of that. But some of her friends also kind of come into conflict with that. So throughout her years at the school, she kind of has to learn to balance that and maybe realize that, you know, devoting yourself to your entire life to one person that you have yet to meet maybe holds you back from making other experiences. And then last, we have Navi. Navi comes from a long line of light magicians, and light magic used to be something that was so essential to the world, especially once the sunbirds were first shot from the sky. The world was plunged into a darkness. So light magicians were needed to hold back and protect the settlements of humans that during this darkness were attacked by everything that was lurking in the shadows. However, now the sun is back in its place, and light magic has become a little bit obsolete. So now it's a lot more focused on history and what it used to be versus what it actually still is. So Navi, as someone who for her whole life has been taught about the marvels that light magic used to do, now is kind of disappointed with what she is faced with. And her question is like, is this what I was made for? Lighting lanterns and sending little balls of light into the night to kind of illuminate the tracks, like, that's not a life to live for her. So she still wants to honor this line of people that came before her, but she also wants to find a new way to use this light magic that, you know, she used to be so inspired by. And Navi is an artist. She is deeply creative, so her craft focuses not on the collective bundle of light that is white and shines so bright. It's more about dissecting it into its different colors and creating art from it. So that's still something I'm a bit kind of working on, but I like the idea of characters reinterpreting the craft that they are performing. And that's kind of the central theme of my stories, making something new from the things that you've been given. And yeah, I hope you guys like this. I really do want to share more lore about my characters and world building, because 90% of the art that I do is about this story. I don't know if I'll ever actually make the story into something because I'm not a good writer. And the world building is so at best. But it's fun and it drives me as an artist, which is nice. I do have a Discord. I feel like I keep mentioning it. But if you're into making characters or world building and you would like to perhaps share, the link is in the description. And we would be really happy to have you. In general, the support has been really great from all of you. I'm really thankful, and I think it's also really awesome to see your guys' stuff in the Discord, and I love seeing what you guys are working on. I'm still working on getting a more consistent live stream schedule up, but for now I think it's gonna be a little bit more sporadic, but nonetheless, you guys are so awesome, and yeah. I really hope you enjoyed today's video. I'll do like my top art supplies of 2024 video soon because some people have been asking for it. And yeah, that's just about it. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Bye!